I show off when I don't roll by myself, when I got some help with me. And today I'm honored to be able to introduce a very special guest. She's a dear sweetheart, and I love her to pieces. Some of you may remember her from 2016 on the Dream Deferred No More show. Well, she's back in the house today to roll with me, looking beautiful and glowing, and oh, she just looked good, don't she, y'all? Yes, she does. Welcome and with me. Welcome with me. Welcome, and let's say hi to the beautiful Aisha Farmer. Hi, Aisha. How
Hello,
are you?
hello, hello. I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
The
Thank you for
vibes.
being with us. And we have in the house my girl, my road, my I call her my road dog because she's the everything. She is the everything. Content creator, everything for We Are One, the movement, We Are One podcast, and the Angie Fox show. None other than the one and only Sabretta Reagans. We call her Brett. She's in the house on this interview today, and we are glad that she has taken time out of her busy, very busy schedule to be with us on the platform. So y'all say what's up and hello to Brett. Brett, what's up, Brett?
What's going on, family? What's going on? What's up,
Thank you,
y'all?
thank you, thank you for
Another day,
being with
another
us.
day.
Another day, another dollar. That's how they really say it. The people that's in the workforce, another day, another dollar. That's what we say in the US of A. Yes, we thank God for being here today. And we're going to get right into this interview because I'm excited about our special guest today, Aisha Farmer.
Yeah.
She is such a jewel. And I want her to introduce herself to you all. So, Aisha, tell the world, all of our listening audience, who is Aisha Farmer?
Aisha Farmer is a product of God's grace. I, of course, am from Sumter, born and raised, single mother, and I'm the youngest of four. And I love to always start off by telling people, the pride that I have in growing up in the household that I did. Um, I am a lover of all things education, a researcher by nature. And I just love the Lord. And so I'm 41 years old and still on fire for my father.
That's all right. That is beautiful. Well said,
Yeah.
honey. She's a product of her mom. Her mom was a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she turned out to be one of the most awesome young women I've ever met. I was blessed to meet Aisha, not when she was a child, but when she was, I think back in 2016, may have been our first interview.
Mm-hmm.
16 or 17,
Somewhere around there.
somewhere around there. I met you for the
Mm-hmm.
first time, and I was impressed with your life, with the way you carry yourself, and everything that you stand for. And she's an entrepreneur. She's going to tell us more about herself very, very soon. But the first thing I want to say is, Aisha,
Mm-hmm.
there is a song that I love so very much. And the words of the song go something like, "You don't know the cost of the oil in my alabaster box." Every time I think about that song, I get teary eyed
Mm-hmm.
because it means so much to me. We don't know what others have gone through to get to where they
Mhm.
are or where they're going. And I
Mm-hmm.
just love that song and it resonates with me. And I brought that song up because today's topic is preserved oil. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about your story and we want you to just share with us what that means to you. Why are you here?
Preserved oil. First of all, that's one of my favorite songs too. I think when it comes to CeCe Wine and CeCe can do no wrong. It's like she's just sitting right there under God and just getting the
Yes.
downloads for what we
Yes.
need. But no one knows the cost of the oil in any of our alabaster boxes. And for me, I think that a lot of people, just like we talked about the last time, I think the last time that we came together, in my mind, I was there. I'm like, I'm just gonna make sure I answer every question. I'm gonna make sure that I just share as much as I can. But then I still felt like there was some things I was holding back on. And so
Yes.
um when it comes to preserved oil, and when I went back and looked at that interview, I said, you know what, Aisha, there's so many layers of you that you just weren't willing to share. And just as you said, somebody needs that. People look at me a lot of times and they think that I have it together. They think that I have, they just look. and they don't realize everything that comes with that. They don't realize everything that I may have been through, because we never look like what we've gone through.
Right.
And so I don't show struggle. I don't show, adversity. I don't show defeat. And I think that kind of sometimes makes people get a misconstrued idea of who I am. But I can tell you, I have seen adversity. My brother posted something on my Facebook the other day, and it brings it to what you just asked me. It just popped in my mind. He said, he called me the rose that grew from concrete. So, if you like Tupac Shakur, that was one of his poems. And so in that poem, he talked about this rose that, had the nerve to grow in a harsh environment. And so while my household wasn't a harsh place, there was some harsh things that I was exposed to as a child. And even, through adolescence and things like that. And I would be exposed to it. I would see it. I would hear it. But somehow the Lord would kind of put this barrier of protection around my mind and my heart in these situations. And I think that because of that love and that grace, that's why I've been able to, be able to not look like some of the things I've experienced or heard or seen or had to literally fight through. And so for me, God has literally preserved my oil, and he's given me this chaotic strength that I don't even know how I walk in it. I know as we go on in this conversation, I'll be able to share a little more, but for me, to be able to walk through all those things and still, be overflowing, it speaks volumes.
Right. You mentioned the last time we came together on the last radio show that we were on. And you said after looking back at it a few days ago, you realized that there were many layers of you. And there were many things that you realized you did not share. You were not ready to share. And I wanted you to understand. I wanted you to just hear it, hear yourself say it. Because one thing that I do know from my own experience is that though you look like the epitome of strength and being unbothered, because that's what you show us. You just said out of your own mouth that there are so many things, adversities that you went through on your own, but you don't show that. But I want to tell you, you don't say it either. And that's okay. That's okay to be a pillar of strength for everybody around you and everybody who encounters you, because that's how I see you. You've inspired me. And when I met you, I called you a kid because you're the same age as one of my daughters. So I called you a kid, but I was inspired by you. But one thing I've learned, and I know you understand this, that it is so important to share, to say, share what you've been through. You can't share everything all the time. Let's get that out there for anybody who's listening. You can't share everything, every detail all the time. Everybody is not ready for that. But it is important, if you take nothing else away from this interview today, to remember that it's imperative that we are willing to share and tell others about some of the adversities, because there's somebody waiting on you to give them that lifeline or that permission to live through what it is they're going through, because they just heard you say what God brought you out of. And I just wanted to throw that out there. That's for you, that's for Brett, and that's for everybody listening. It's so easy for us to want to hold on to what we've been through, not share it because we've overcome it. But what we don't realize is what we've overcome is a part of our makeup. Though I may not still be bound by depression and suicidal mentality, it's a part of what made me who I am. So I have to share that so that somebody else who's depressed and suicidal can live. So that's just a little nugget, because you said as we go further into the interview, maybe you'll open up and share some more things. So I want to get back to real quick before Brett speaks. I want to get back to something that you didn't expound on in your introduction, because you are every bit of what God called you, and that beautiful shining star you are indeed. But you said you are a lover of all things educational, and you kind of brushed over some things without telling us without reading your bio, tell us what you do, because I think that's important for some young girls and young women to hear at the age of 41, some of the things that you have accomplished in your personal and professional life, in spite of the adversities that you faced, and realizing that God preserved you and your oil. Remember, I mean, share that with us so we can get an inside look of who this is sitting before us today.
Well, I'm a professional curse breaker and generational curse breaker. I will say that I am the first in my family to go to college, and not only go to college, but to actually graduate from college. And so that was really big. I graduated from South Carolina State University, and I went on and started teaching. I started teaching public school. After teaching public school for a while, I went into teaching charter school, did that for a while, and then God literally orchestrated a beautiful situation where I was blessed to be co-founder of Reagan Preparatory Christian Academy, where I served for 10 years as the administrator and director of curriculum. And so I also have still been in the classroom all those years. And when I say education is my passion, at one point in my life, I didn't want to believe that I still wanted to be an educator, but I absolutely love what I did or have done at Reagan Prep for all these years. I also am a former beauty pageant queen. As we know, I love all things beauty. I was Ms. Sumter Plus America in 2015, went on to graduate and become Miss South Carolina Plus America in that same year. Went on, and a couple of years later, when God said it was time, in 2019, I was crowned Miss Plus America. And so I have, those titles under my belt. I always wanted a national pageant title. God did it. And so literally in his time. I also have a small business called If Beauty, where I make a very popular hair oil. And I used to make, skin body butters and all those things. But when I realized the blessing that my hair oil has been to everyone, I kind of backed away from the skincare aspect and really just, I flourished with the hair oil. And so I think that's pretty much all that I do. I have tried to chisel away because, I want to have a personal life. So I kind of chiseled away at some of these things because, listen, I have been a woman of enterprise for many years, and just, you sit down and you look at me, you're like, okay, let's slow down because God has me, more in the personal world. So I want to be a good steward of my personal life now.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What is your personal life like? What is it that makes you you? What makes you happy? What makes you tick?
So I grew up in poverty. I think that's pretty much kind of an understood for anybody who knows me and kind of knows of my background. As I mentioned, I grew up in a single parent household, but my mom, even though we lacked in some areas, especially financially, she would never let us kind of feel the pain of what she was dealing with as a single parent. But as you grow, you kind of get a better understanding. So there was some struggles there. We went through the usual struggles that you would see in most single parent households, things that would go unpaid, having to move a lot. Just the experience of, I would see times when my mother was really, really tired. And I think that was my driving force for why I couldn't allow myself to not be successful, if that would make sense. Because I got inspired by just watching how my mom worked. And so I got this thing in my head at an early age that I would do everything I could to make my mother proud. And so that was my driving force for many, many years. I never wanted to bring shame upon my mother by going out and not doing well. Not to say that I didn't make mistakes, because I made them. I know we'll talk about it. I made them along the way. But I don't know, God just, as I said, there's been grace and mercy. And so people have this, that's why I mentioned that misconstrued concept of who I am, because, to people, I think they think I'm Jesus a lot of times. But when I tell you, growing up the way that I did inspired me. I had a lot of people, especially in school, because like I said, we had it hard, just to be honest. But with the four of us, my siblings, we stuck together. But like outside of the household, I remember because my mom was really big on me making sure, always look like a young lady, always present yourself this way, everything, all those things. And so whenever I went to school, she was really big on appearance when it came to school. And so, to other kids, because they don't know any better, I would go through, I had issues, of now that I'm older, I can say it, but you didn't want to identify it as that because you felt like you were isolating yourself. But I did deal with the jealousy portion, somewhat in school, in the younger years, because I think that everyone was kind of looking at a misconception of, you think you all that, but we live in the same neighborhood, baby. Like, we live in the same neighborhood, and I'm going through the same thing that you're going through. It just looks different.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it really got started in elementary school, where people would see how I was sent to school, how it would appear to look, as opposed to what was really going on. Like, I'm getting the same effects that y'all are having. It's just that I have a mother who is just pushing a little harder.
Oh,
That's my driving force.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. And just to piggyback on that, you said something that we like to say here. There's a saying that it says, get up, dress up, and show up.
Yeah.
And you said something I think that's very important, especially when we're talking about our young ladies and our young girls with everything that's going on in today's world. So if you had someone that would come and talk to you, they're watching you and they're seeing what you're doing, they're a young girl and they're aspiring to follow in your steps, and they're dealing with the jealousy or, oh, she stay right next door to me, so how is it that she, what would you say to that person, to, or that young girl or young lady, to encourage them to continue to show up, get dressed, show up, and do what is necessary to get to that next step, and not allow what others are saying or coming at them in a crazy way, to stay in that vein to get to their next level, no matter what they're going through?
I would say, and that's really good because I never considered that. I would say, stay focused. It's easier said than done, but whatever, like, there's a goal. And even at early ages, because it would bother me so much. It was like a dark cloud over me, to the point that, there would be situations where I wouldn't say anything, or, just to kind of let people win. But the thing that I would say to any young lady dealing with that same type of adversity, or dealing with that same type of interaction, is to don't lower yourself. Stay focused on whatever it is that you are trying to do. Because if you put that in your mind, if you get that tunnel vision, but you can also inspire them. One of the things that I wish I had done at an early age, or I wish I understood at an early age, was that God was setting me up to inspire then.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have the understanding of it. And so I wish it could, young girls could see it as, let this be inspiration to you. Let this show you that instead of walking around, because I couldn't see what they were seeing. All I saw was a normal person. When you're just operating as you don't see all of that. And so I saw just, as my family called me Monique, I just saw Monique, you know what I mean? But they could see your potential. They could see all these other things. And I would tell them to let other people know, like, you can do it too. Like, it's in you too. Don't dull your light. Don't dim your light. Don't make others feel bad about the light that's around you. Tell them to come on and get in the light. And so I would tell them, be an inspiration even at that age. And it's harder to understand it early, but I wish that, God had downloaded that in my spirit at a younger age. Just be a light. Don't shun away from being a light. Because a lot of times that jealousy can just be, they're inspired. They just don't know how to channel it.
Yeah.
What was your defining moment when you realized that you were an inspiration to others, a mentor, a leader? You are a mentor of girls everywhere. Literally and figuratively, your actions, what you do, the organization that you started, everything that you do in addition to being an educator and a professional and a beauty queen, you are a mentor, you are a
Right.
leader. What was your defining moment? And this goes along with what Brett just asked you and how you just answered the question about inspiring others. What
Yeah.
was the defining moment in your life when you realized your purpose?
So, that's a good question. My defining moment was, and it wasn't hard to come to me just now, so I'm glad. In college, because as I shared on your show previously, I took a purity pledge at 15. I was serious and focused on it. So in college, I met one of my closest friends. She's from New York. And our freshman year, we lived right across the hall from each other. So again, she became one of my closest friends. And so over time, over the years, maybe about our junior year or so, she kind of got into a situation that wasn't good. And of course, me being the type of friend that I am, like, I'm that friend that's gonna be with you thick and thin. I'm gonna tell you when you're right and you're wrong, but I'm gonna show up for you, because I love you, and I'm built that way. And so she got into a situation. Situation was pretty bad. And so I remember, when the situation was over, it was still happening, I'll say that, but the main part of it had just ended. And she said to me one day, we were talking, and she was just expressing herself. And she said, I don't know what I did to have a friend like you. And I was like, I love you too, girl, just me. I love you too. And she was like, no, she said, because you don't even realize like who you are to all of us. You don't realize, how much we depend on you and how much like I look up to you. We're only a month apart. I'm only a month older than her. But she was like, I look up to you so much. She was like, don't change. That was the moment that I really realized, like, I got something. People would say things here and there, but to hear from somebody that's with you every day and know your moods and know how you really are, like that, I think was my defining moment, because I didn't realize how much I would pour into them. I really do. I've always given advice to my friends and things like that, but I think it would just go on one ear and out the other. But when she spoke and I saw the tears and I really heard the words, it was just like, okay, Aisha, you really have to, own this and be okay with it. I used to have an issue with being the good girl all the time. I did. I had an issue because it would bring me, conflicting moments. But then that moment was like, okay, there's something here. I have to stay here. So that was the moment that sticks out.
But you brushed across something else just now. You said, you recall a time telling me on the last show that you took a purity pledge at the age of 15.
Yes.
What in the world? What is that,
So
and why?
There was a group that came to our church when I was like 15. And they spoke to all the families and like of the teenagers. I don't remember all the details, but I remember them having the parents in a session, and we were in a session, and they brought us together, And I was so taken aback by everything that they were sharing, they were talking about, and it was like an actual family, and this was their ministry. They traveled, and they went and, had this whole purity pack that that they did. And so the parents learned how to support and all these different things. And so, again, that's weird in this society. Y'all know in this society, everybody just want to be, Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B and everybody, not to knock them. But, when I listened to everything that they shared, and I understood, how sacred, our bodies are, and how special that was, I understood that I was special then. And all the young ladies then in that room with me, there was just a moment we shared where we realized, like, we're special. And so they gave us a card. They explained to us what, purity was. They explained to us, that we would withhold that until marriage. And they told us it wasn't just, about the sexual aspect, that it was a lifestyle, of living in this grace and in this light. And so, I took it, and but to be honest, after the first couple of years, like, I took it seriously because I had already made up in my mind that I was going to wait. But like the whole pack that I took, like as far as, being that beacon of light and everything else, child, I wasn't a beacon of light for God knows what all through high school, but I wasn't a terrible person, but I don't think I walked in that light and that grace all through, high school. Others may see it differently. I don't know, but I don't believe that I was. I'm me, so I know me. So I took that pledge, and I had been through some things, prior to that growing up, which I kind of shared with you, but I can lightly talk about it. I come from a very overprotective family. My family because I'm the baby, my siblings were extremely overprotective. My brothers especially, but they're boys, so they know, they pretty sure they know themselves. And so, they were trying to protect me from certain things that, they had experienced. And so they were very overprotective, even to this point. Now I'm 41 and I still have moments where I have to kind of shut some things down here and there. But, growing up, even around that time that I took the purity pledge, there were like older men. One of the things that I definitely didn't like and that made me uncomfortable were older men had no boundaries when it came to how they felt about what they wanted. And so there were older men around the community. There were older men in churches. There were older men in so many other aspects of life that I have experienced where they would approach me inappropriately. And I would keep it from my family because I never wanted my brothers to get in trouble. I didn't want I just feared what my family would do in situations like that. And so one of the things that it just made me feel really low, like it will make you feel dirty, to hear those things from men that you respect, men that you have love for. And
thank you for saying that. I hate to interrupt, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because society does dictate now that women and girls feel flattered when men, regardless of their age or status, come on to them. You said it made you feel dirty. And that is rare. Let me say, I don't know how rare, but I know I've experienced many young girls and women thinking that's a compliment.
No, ma'am.
When a man looks at your body and craves you or tells you that's what he wants. So before we go any further, I want you to put a plug right there because this story is far from over. So to each of you listening to us today, we're going to stop right there and close out part 1. And I want you to stay tuned and come right back for part 2, because we're going to continue the story, because now we're getting into the meat of it all, the inspiring, motivating, empowering young girls, young ladies to know their worth. And no better person that can bring that home than our very special guest, Miss Aisha, the virtuous woman farmer. And you're going to know why in a little while. Stay tuned for more coming with Aisha Farmer on the We Are One #1 show on the #1 empowerment podcast platform in the land. Stay tuned. Thank you for being with us today, and look for more coming soon. Aisha Farmer on We Are One. God bless you. We love you. Holla at your girl.